What is up, OGs? Time for a unedited long video rant talking about Teslas, electric cars in general versus the conventional car. And it's been on my mind not because of all of the cars I've backed into the stores, but because I was actually looking at getting a new car for the last 2 months. And I really looked into all the different options, right? Like there's a very strong tendency for electric nowadays. Everybody's saying electric is the future, and a lot of my friends are getting Teslas or like Rivian, etc. But the thing is, like I looked at it for a long time. Like there's the conventional gas car, there is the hybrid, there's the plug-in hybrid, and then there's the fully electric, right? Those are the 4 options that we have. And I feel like as a Vancouverite, when we're young, we've always been taught to be very environmental. So I'm trying to put into the context of like, what is the best environmental decision? And the problem that I realized that I'm not sure if people are talking about enough is like whether or not electric cars are really actually good for the environment. The reason why I say that is because I pretty much landed, my final decision is I'm thinking of getting a hybrid. And I'm kind of looking at Lexus right now for the hybrid. I looked at the Camry as well. But the reason why is because my conclusion after looking at all the different brands, doing all the research about all the different types of cars out there, in terms of whether it's environmental friendly, also like how much gas it uses, all of those things, like I really don't think that a Tesla is actually good for the environment. And like if any of you are like, yo, I knew this already, okay, well, I don't know how many people know or don't know this, or if it's just virtual signaling. Virtual signaling means like, you do something that seems like you're doing it out of the goodness of your own heart, selfless, but actually it's not. Like, I don't know if it's just a virtual signaling, but I'm looking at all these prices of all these cars, and I really don't think electric cars are ultimately good for the environment. The first thing to talk about is just the battery in general is full of chemicals, which is not the best for the environment. But the biggest aspect here is not only from an environmental perspective, but a financial perspective. So what happens is that a lot of these electric cars, their value depreciates like crazy. And people don't want to buy used electric cars. Like, I think this is the biggest pain point. The biggest thing that's really like ruminating in my brain is like electric cars. Like, people don't want to buy secondhand electric cars. Like, when people look at electric cars, they look at the health of the battery. And the problem is that if the battery is not good, to replace the battery just costs us like a shit ton of money. Like, it costs us as much as a new car, pretty much. And I think that's where I'm seeing that I don't really think it's good for the environment. So what happens is that when I look at, like, I'm looking at the Japanese cars because they're very reliable. But I understand, like, even if we look at just cars in general, the thing is that second-hand cars are actually a great way to be sustainable for the environment. Like, a chunk of metal pretty much is like created, and like if you don't use it, it's just gonna end up in the junkyard, and that's bad for the environment. I'm thinking about electric cars and the fact that if their battery is depleted, the value of the car is just useless, and nobody wants that car. They could replace it with a battery, but the biggest problem is that they might as well just get a new car at that point, right? Because if the battery costs that much, why don't they just get a new one? Another problem is that when they do, like Tesla and other businesses are also incentivized to encourage you to get a new one. So what's happening is like these electric cars are just popping off the shelf, all new, getting the most revenue from their customers. But once they're used to a certain amount, like they're not as efficient anymore, and eventually people won't use it, or they will just replace the battery. But if they don't have a good resale value, I think that's the thing that is the most detrimental to the environment. Like if you're still listening now, well, amazing patience, but you know, first thing is just like the battery is bad for the environment, and the second thing is that like I just don't think that the resale market, the way that the resale market is going right now, it just doesn't seem like it's ultimately good for the environment. And when I see like when I do the research, if there is no good resale value, then like there is just going to be cars that are continuing to be wasted and going to the junkyard pretty much. I'm driving like a super old car, and I'm really thinking about getting a new one. That's pretty much where I am at right now. And like I think out of all the choices that I have, out of all the decisions, out of all the research, because I'm not going to lease. Like the next car that I want to buy, I want to buy it for long term, because I also think that's good for the environment. So my final decision is I really want to get a hybrid. I think the hybrid is the best way to go in terms of like overall sustainability, and it's like just economically and environmental wise, it just feels like it's the best decision. You don't need to use as much gas, which is good for the environment and good for your wallet. And the resale value of the car is higher, which is also good for the environment. If I use a car for 10 years and I can still resell, I'm encouraged to resell it because I can still make some of the value of the car I invested in originally back. And also, because the resale value is high, is because the longevity of the car is high too. So the person who's buying it secondhand, they are also encouraged to use a secondhand vehicle instead of getting a completely new car, which is also bad for the environment. So let me know what y'all think, OGs, if I'm on the right track or if it just sounds like I'm going off the rails or something. And I'll see y'all in the next video that isn't as long and as boring and as serious as this one. Like and subscribe. Okay, bye.